I'm Dave Lavin, and this is my brother Mike Lavin, and welcome to episode 3 of the Vermont Real Estate Cast. In this week's cast, we are going to answer the question that's on everybody's mind, and that's, are we in a housing bubble here in Vermont? We're also going to take a quick look at how you can structure your financing so that you can compete with cash buyers using a new program that just became available in Vermont. So let's get right into this, Mike. Let's talk about if we're in a housing bubble right now. To get started, can you give us a good idea of what's been happening with your market snapshot over the last 30, 40 days?
Sure, definitely I can. And we're going to look at it the same way we've looked at it in previous episodes, which is we're going to look at the single family, condo, and townhome market for Greater Burlington, which is Chittenden County, Grand Isle County, and Franklin counties combined, just to let you know how we do this here. And for April of this year, April 2022, we had 127 homes sold within that criteria. The average days on market was 26. The average sale price was $493,000. Would have been a little bit higher, but there was a $10 million sale that you might have seen in the Wall Street Journal, but we didn't include that in the stats because that was a little bit high. Also, and if I'm recalling back to our market update, looking at the February numbers, I think the average sale price was in the mid to high 300s. So that's quite a significant leap there. And finally, the average sold to list price, again, which is this comparison of the average price that was selling to where they were listed on average, was plus 6.7%. So for that month of this year, for April, those properties were selling for considerably over the asking price on average. And now if we compare that to April of 2021, just sort of taking the same month and the same criteria, but a year before, we had 147 homes sold. Days on market was longer; it was 48. The average price was about almost 50,000 lower; it was 448,000. And that same thing, the average sold to list price ratio was 1.3% over. So they were selling for a little bit over the asking price on average last year for April, and this April they're almost 7% over the asking price on average. So we've seen a pretty good leap there. And that brings us to the real question. If we're looking at these numbers, like you and I were talking about at the beginning of the episode, is are we really in a housing bubble right now? And I know you and I have seen some just personal anecdotal things recently in our personal business here that have shown some pretty impressive things. And I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the question, right? The Fed meeting was yesterday. Interest rates are climbing up dramatically. I mean, what have we jumped almost 2% on a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage over the last year or something crazy like that, which you would think traditionally would take all these buyers out of the market. But what we're seeing is a sort of a factor of two, right? Because we talk to a lot of homeowners every day. We're seeing homeowners saying, hey, I don't want to sell because I've got this great rate and I don't want to get locked into a higher rate when I buy my next property. And then you're seeing buyers on the flip side who can't find rentals. Let's say they're first-time home buyers. There's no rentals around here that are saying, hey, I've got to get out there and buy something quickly before I lose all my purchasing power to interest rates, right? So it's one of those things where you're seeing properties get bid way up over, where they were. The question is, does that create a bubble? I mean, is there a point where, all the buyers disappear and all of a sudden people say, we no longer want our houses and it's time to sell them? As we were talking about, I don't think you're going to see that going through this summer and even into the fall. I think you're going to see inventory continue to collapse. There continue to be a huge shortage, and there'll be a giant pool of buyers that are ready to go, that are going to continue to make this a really prime time if you can sell, if you're in a position, if you have a second home, if you're moving out of state, if you're downsizing, anything like that. This is a great time to sell your property, and buyers on the other side are sort of in two pools here, right? They're thinking either I'm going to wait and hope prices come down, there is some sort of bubble. But at the same time, I don't want to risk interest rates going up, because if they go up another percent, I lose another $100,000 in buying power, $50,000 in buying power. So my monthly payment's still the same. So what's the big factor that could sort of, pop a bubble if there is a bubble? Maybe it would be energy costs, right? So we've talked about this, right? What's the thought on this? In the fall and in the winter next year, if gas gets really expensive, people might say, hey, even though I've got this great interest rate, I can't afford the house. And that's when you'll see more inventory come on.
Right.
The real question is, though, there's the COVID factor, too, which is how many people can work from home now that want to come live here in Vermont, right? I mean, what are you seeing out there? Are you seeing a lot of people sort of looking at the work from home that are going to, be willing to pay more for a house because they're going to be there all the time? It's going to be their office.
Yeah.
they're coming from out of state where prices are way more expensive than they are here. So, what are you seeing out there? I mean, what is your thoughts on this?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I'm basically seeing the same thing, and especially with people who can work from home. They found out from their employer that they can now work from home permanently, essentially, if they want to. It's sort of their option. And a lot of people who found that out, I've got some clients myself who they live in bigger cities out of state, and they're looking to come to a nice rural setting. As long as they can find a nice home with a good high-speed internet connection that's available, that's what they're looking to do. And again, they're coming from a market where maybe they just sold their home for a much larger price than the homes go for here. So they've got some extra cash they're sitting on. And for them to come up here, they're buying in cash, or they've got a really large down payment. They're not worried about appraisals and stuff like that. They're overbidding those properties tremendously. And that's, again, putting more pressure on everything, including like first-time buyers and people trying to do traditional financing. So it is
Yeah.
making it more difficult for everyone. But yeah, there's that the added pressure coming in because of the sort of paradigm shift in our sort of job market and in our society in general right now.
Right. Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, so that gets into this $1 million question, which is, are we in a bubble? And some people are going to say, I mean, you're seeing articles saying, yeah, we're in a bubble, but is there anything to actually pop this bubble? This is a lot different than going into 2008 or something like that. When I first started in the business in 0304, everybody was getting these loans they shouldn't be getting, and that's what was driving the prices up. This is totally different. This is, hey, there's no inventory. People got amazing rates. They're not going to want to sell their homes. So there's going to continue to be, for a long period of time, no inventory. And because of that, buyers are having to become stronger and stronger. They have to have bigger down payments. They're not taking risky loans. They're going to come in and buy up these properties. And if interest rates continue to go up, I think you're going to see, the inventory continue to decrease, which means you're not going to see a pop in what some people might think is a bubble here in our economy, in any of the housing markets across the U.S. right now. And so
Yeah.
I think there was a stat we looked at, and we'll see if we can find it and put it up on screen here, but it was every time the interest rates jump like 1 or 2% in a year, inventory falls and prices go up. It's just what happens.
Right.
And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
don't see that. But what you have to think about is there's financial advisors who are out there telling their clients, hey, you need to buy now and lock in an interest rate, because if it goes up another 2%, you're going to lose all your purchasing power. You're not going to be able to buy a house in Vermont. You're going to have to look at another market.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's significant.
it's a big unknown, right? There's a lot of other factors, and no one can predict the future. But I would say that if you're waiting, if you think you're going to wait through the summer and find better deals at the end of the summer or something like that, I think you're going to get hurt in two ways. You're going to see higher prices and you're going to see higher interest rates. And the cost of what you could have bought now is going to go up. So that's why people are fighting over houses. And that's why, if you are selling, it is the great time to do it, especially if you have the ability to go to another property, or maybe you've got, somewhere else you can live for a little bit. Now's the time to do it. So on that subject, I want to roll right into the other part of this. We don't want to keep these casts too long. We don't want to bore our viewers out there. And we do appreciate everybody that's been watching. I think have over 10,000 views now. This is a new channel, and people are starting to subscribe. So we encourage you to do the same. I'm also here with my trusty sidekick, Cedric, who you might hear snoring in the background. So we do apologize for that extra little bit of noise. But let's get right into this other issue here. We're going to be in this market with low inventory. It's going to be super competitive. I think the stat I heard yesterday was the average buyer will make 7 offers on 7 different properties nationwide before they get one accepted. I think that's what they're seeing across the board. So
Yeah.
how do you, as a buyer out there, go out and compete against an all-cash buyer if you have a loan, right? We all know that the terms of these deals are also important, and they're being bid up, and nothing's going to appraise for what it's selling for. So you have to be able to cover some sort of appraisal gap. But is there a program out there? I know we were just talking about this. These didn't really exist in Vermont yet, but I know some of the lenders out there are starting to get creative. Is there something out there, Mike, now that a buyer can use that can put them in a position to compete against an all-cash buyer and have a better chance at winning in these multiple offer situations and finally finding a home? Is there anything out there?
Yeah, there is a really cool product, and it's from our friend Phil Gans at Fairway Mortgage Corporation, and we're going to talk about this. We actually talked about this in a previous episode where we had him on as a guest, but they've sort of made it official now how they offer this product. And yeah, you got to remember that sellers, they're getting these stacks of offers right now, and it's not just your price that matters, it's also your financing. When they've got some cash buyers there, they know that, okay, that cash is guaranteed at closing. They're not worried about the financing contingency. So you want to be able to go into place an offer, if you can, without having a financing contingency. And that's what this program allows you to do. They pre-approve you and do the full underwriting process in the approval process, so that you have this thing, they call it a cash guarantee. It's the Fairway cash guarantee at closing. So essentially, if for some reason you don't close on the property, they guarantee to the seller that they're going to, A, provide the cash at closing, and they're going to purchase the property if they have to, if for some reason it doesn't close for another reason. So it's pretty much a guarantee to the seller, and that's what you want. You want to have something where the seller's looking at your offer at the same way as a cash offer, and this essentially gives you that same sort of leverage that you would have as a cash buyer, which is really awesome.
Wow. So with this type of approval and this cash offer, I can literally come to you and say, "Hey, Mike, I can guarantee that whatever price we've agreed to, I can close on this house. You have no worries about financing." And once you take that worry out, I'm as good as a cash buyer, right? What's the whole thing? Why are cash buyers attractive to owners? Because they're guaranteed to close for the most part. Their deal's not going to fall apart over financing. So if I come to you, if for some reason I can't close, whatever, employment changes, whatever it is, and I can't close the loan, what you're saying is that the actual bank will still move forward and buy the property in cash, and the seller gets their money and they're happy. They're not losing the buyer.
Yeah, that's right. So no matter what, the seller is going to get their money and have the closing as expected at the price expected, no matter what happens. And again, that's for some kind of outside situation where the buyer can't close, but it's not going to be because of a financing contingency, because it's already worked out under this current system. So it's a really great product. You can see the information on the screen, more information about Phil Gans too, and we highly recommend you looking into it if you're looking to be competitive in this market, which you have to be. You've got to have some sort of angle like this if you want to be competitive with 15 other offers in the property, and it's your fifth or sixth offer you've made too. So it's something to think about for sure. We've been telling all our buyers about
that's awesome, and we appreciate you sharing that, because it's valuable information. Because I know personally, talking to a lot of buyers, that they're really frustrated trying to compete with all cash buyers. It's really hard to compete against them and get your offer accepted. Sometimes you might be financing a traditional pre-approval and be higher than a cash buyer and still lose out on the property, and that's just heartbreaking for someone that's been looking for a home for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you see all these listings where they say right in the listing that the seller is preferring a cash offer. Like, they tell you flat out that's what they're looking for, and you know they're going to get it right now. They're going to get at least a few of them. So it's really really important right now to have something like this.
Yeah, so there is, some of the good news is there is hope. If you are a buyer who's been getting crushed by cash buyers, there is a solution for you. And unfortunately, on the other side, if you're hoping that, hey, my only other hope is that there's going to be 1,000 homes that are going to come on the market, and everybody's going to have to sell for some reason, there's going to be a collapse in the market, I think you're going to be probably waiting for a long time for anything like that, for any opportunity like that. So, and the cost, I mean, remember, if you're going to continue to rent or something like that, you're paying 100% interest rate. You're just throwing away that cash to the landlord. So, sitting on the sidelines for 3, 4, 5 years, and you're paying $3,000 a month in rent, you're greatly, losing your buying power on top of inflation, right? So it's a time, the markets are always all over the place. The housing market's always move, just like the stock market, but it's still not a bad time to buy, right? Even though you feel like prices have pushed up. And the hardest thing for people right now is competing against these cash buyers and making themselves strong. So this is a solution, and if you can you can make it work for you, it could get you back in this market if you feel like you've sort of given up hope and forgot, said, I'm never going to be able to get a house. So if you have further questions, you can always reach us by sending us a text or giving us a call at the number on the screen. Besides that, we really appreciate all of you tuning in and watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Dave Lavin. This is my brother Mike Lavin, and we are the Lavin team. And thank you for watching episode 3 of the Vermont Real Estate Cast. Have a great day, and hope to see you out there soon. Bye.